Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and that beautiful technicolor rainbow in between. My name is Lord Crate, and today in this video, I'm going to be talking about things I would personally like to see for Lies of P and its upcoming DLC. Or depending on when you're watching this, what I did want to see. Number 1, the Crate Aftermath. Starting off with the first thing on our list, if the game does still follow P and the DLC is still affected by the campaign choices, somehow maybe you have to do something to avoid getting another New Game Plus. It would be interesting to see how we affected the world of Krat by our choices depending on what path we chose to follow in the main game. Would people see Human P as their savior? Would they see Puppet P as their dictator? Maybe we get to see how we affected the citizens from our window quest to see the consequences of our actions truly. Next on our list with number 2, more Legion arms with variation. Now, I'm sure you're wondering what I genuinely mean by variation, since yes, we do have 8 Legion arms. What I mean is by the fact that we see something that can change the playstyle and fighting tactics of players. Other than the Aegis, Fulminus, and Puppet String, nearly all the arms are only really good if you A, can consistently keep a good distance away from enemies, or B, get them in a good spot where you can attack them using splash damage from your arm. It would be fun to see a set of Legion arms that are all just about straight hack and slash or just brawling. Maybe we get to see the Steel Legion finally be useful. Yes, the old Legion arms come with the benefit of dishing out big damage at your level, but only from a distance. It'd be fun to see people take more risk and have more brutal fighting methods of style when you play. Number 3, the Broken Puppet. If the DLC does follow Dorothy rather than a Puppet P, I think it would be interesting to see her somehow get to the Broken Puppet in the Barren Swamp and see how that affects her game. I know a popular theory in the Lies of P fandom is that Pinocchio is meant to be the Tin Man, but let's be honest, the Broken Puppet is way more Tin Man coded than P, which leads into my next bit. Number 4, Dorothy and Pinocchio. This is less about my ding with the gameplay and more about a story ding, but I genuinely need to see P form a relationship with Dorothy as like a brother and sister ding. I just need to clarify that. I don't think P should need romance. Neither of them need that. But what I'm trying to say is that because if the Rise of P is the canon ending of Pinocchio, then Pinocchio has been screwed since he was born. He had to fight literally from the first second. And then he lost his dad. He lost his friend. He lost his dad because his dad was also trying to technically kill him. I'm just saying he needs a positive relationship in the DLC because he's been getting screwed since day 1. And number 4, more puppet varieties in terms of what you have to face when you actually go through the game. There are so many puppets with so many interesting abilities and designs that it genuinely pisses me off that they were reduced to so many limited locations and usually in only small parts of the game. I have 2 puppets that were so interesting because they were so hard to fight, but they genuinely were good, and that was the spider puppet from the Opera House, who seemingly could control other smaller puppets while also giving you break damage. And that big puppet that looks like cartoon Pinocchio, who can throw you around like a rag doll. Fighting against them was so interesting, and I hate that they were reduced to only 1 or 2 locations. They look so cool, and the carcasses and the humans, I just wish we got to see more of stuff like that in the game, which I hope is what they do for the DLC. Number 5, The Alchemist, Immortality, and the Implications in the Universe. Okay, let's be honest. If anyone knows anything about the concept of alchemy, then you definitely know who Nicholas Flamel is. Just in case, for those of you who don't know, I'll just give you a quick rundown. Basically, it's popular in pop culture and even actual history that supposedly Mr. Flamel had created the Sorcerer's Stone. A stone that could turn any metal into gold and made the user immortal. And yes, I generally do think that goes into Lies of P, because I do believe that the Sorcerer's Stone exists within the game and its possible series. It isn't too far-fetched solely for the fact that we do know that not only alchemists exist, but they strive for the immortality of mankind and the progression of it. and we have encountered one thing that seems to fit in the category of being a result of a Sorcerer's Stone. The golden ergo, a perfectly preserved piece of human life made out of a gold-like material. Yes, I know if you actually look at the art, it technically is more crystalline and a nodule crystal rather than, like, say, a nugget. But hey, it's interesting to think about at least. Number 6. Paracelsus in the endgame of the Alchemist Organization, or his Alchemist Organization at least. From the cutscene that came with Rise of P, which I'm pretty sure is considered the canon ending, we learned that Giangio is actually a man by the name of Paracelsus. Not only that, he has his own alchemist organization seemingly, which is apparently dedicated to finding the main characters of stories in order to use them to gain some form of immortality. The reason why I don't think this is the same organization as the Alchemists of Krat, well, obviously, but I'm going to give some proof, is because seemingly all the alchemists were turned into carcasses by Simon and Laxasia. And not just the alchemists, but also listeners like Sophia. Best example being Experiment 826. And by the end of the game, we already killed Simon and Laxia, who were probably the only people who could rebuild the Alchemist of Krat. Plus, from what I understand, in actual history, it wasn't uncommon for small groups of alchemists to exist separately from others, which leads me to wondering, why is Paracelsus and his organization so dedicated to finding characters such as P and Dorothy if they're attempting to create immortality? Especially if the Sorcerer's Stone does exist. This is why I genuinely think that maybe my Sorcerer's Stone theory may be a little flawed. But hey, it's interesting to think about. And finally, with our last thing on the list, the aftermath of lies. This is something I want to see solely because I think it fits the narrative as something I think would be good for P to learn as a character. Well, it's easy for P to lie as a puppet for the sake of getting his humanity. His humanity also comes with the consequences of hurting the people he now cares about. This includes the effects of his lies and how it affects the people he cares about around him when they do have to learn the truth of his lies. In the original Pinocchio story, the reason Pinocchio's nose grew was because it was to teach him the consequences of his lies. The two biggest characters I think that could be shown with this is Vanigi and Eugenie. Sorry, Belle, you're kind of small potatoes compared to these guys. Because the lies P has to tell them literally shape not only their lives, but the possibility of their relationship with him going forward. The best example would be Vanigi, because Pinocchio has to lie about who was the cause of the puppet frenzy to him. You have to remember that to Vanigi, Geppetto was his best friend right after Puccinella. And after the death of his parents, he was probably just as much a father in his eyes as he was to young Carlo. Sorry, spoilers if anyone hasn't finished the game. Yes, P and Carlo are the same person. Kinda, technically it's confusing. Vanigi genuinely respected the man so much. So it would make sense that at the time, P would lie so he would never find out the truth that he was the cause of the puppet frenzy, or about Wall Zero even. However, in the case of the possible effect in DLC, I think for the case of Vanigi, he won't be angry about Geppetto causing the puppet frenzy. No, well, he will be angry, but I think his anger will come more from the fact that he was deceived, rather than that it was deceived by the one person he started to trust, rather than being lied to about by the person who he was supposed to trust. And I genuinely think this will be good for P. It will cause some dissonance with him and the hotel team, but I think that's good. Because P has to realize that, well, at the time, we don't consider the fact that our lives can hurt anyone. Because at the time, we only see them at the short term. We don't see the long-term effect after we do this. I think it's good for P to realize that his lies are going to be like a termite to wood. It will slowly chew at the very foundation of the home he's built with these people, in every relationship he has with them. Well, then again, this is all speculation and just my personal take on what I would be interested to see in the DLC possibly. It's already almost the end of January, depending when I get around to uploading this, probably the beginning of February. So we're probably not going to see the DLC of Lies of P until at least late February or mid-March, to my best guess at least. This is Lord Krat, going dark for now.